One.
Hi there, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female, and in these days, being transgender has morphed into a political party. Who knew? Anyway, my guest is the fabulous Hercules Invictus. Oh, that is his real name. He is of Greek descent, and he is a great and prolific producer and a metaphysician, a writer. He is a lot of things. We are going to talk about, well, what are we going to talk about? Hercules Invictus.
How about the meaning of life? That's something we can tackle.
Yeah, in 28 minutes or less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds fantastic, and it's doable. So
Yeah.
let's do it.
Hey, well, we can distill it down to, as Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is other people. I mean, whatever. I'm drinking my Coca-Cola. Anyway, so talk to me. Tell me all about it. What's going on in your life?
Well, as you know, I'm in my mid to late 60s, and that's
Gosh, your 60 something is better than most people's 30. Don't worry about it.
and you find yourself confronting questions that you've confronted before, maybe in life, but not as much. So one of the questions, one of the issues facing me, as it does very many people, is mortality. The awareness that the days behind you are much more than the days ahead of you.
We don't know that. AI might change everything.
It might, and we might become AI bots, or we might discover the cure for everything. But
Yeah.
in case we don't, I want to make the most of my time here as I possibly can.
Just in case we don't. Yeah, yeah. Maybe the aliens will come down, to serve man. I mean, who knows?
Possibility. And
So, okay, so now you're in this funk about you think you're going to die soon or something.
no, I'm not in a funk about it, and I don't particularly think I'm going to die soon, although life has taught me that it's very unpredictable. I worked for a while in my professional career in an emergency room.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was a patient advocate,
Yeah.
and there I got to see that basically life is moving along as usual, then something happens that isn't anticipated, and it sometimes leads to a drastic change in one's life, including the cessation of it. So that
Yeah.
very, very aware of that fact, and I've carried that with me. Granted, I don't know when my life will end. I might be here for a very long time, but just in case, I've been asking myself a lot, what do I want to do with my time here? How can I?
Well, now let me ask you, you must have been very strong, must be very strong, to be a patient advocate in an emergency room. That must be a very difficult thing.
It was very challenging because, again, the person's in an emergency room. That's not something that happens to people commonly. Uh,
Mhm.
and the families sometimes aren't notified, and it's hard to find out how to contact the family. And then the family is notified, and they have to wait outside, and they don't get information. So that's where the patient advocate serves a purpose and conveys information to the family, and conveys information from the family to the person if they're conscious, and so forth. Arranges also for viewings in case the person doesn't make it.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a very challenging position. You're kind of like in between worlds.
yeah. Many nurses and doctors say that they really can't tell when a soul is left, and that sometimes there is a slight mist as people die. So,
Yeah, I've heard that too.
yeah.
And I would think that the places would be more haunted than they are, but there isn't a lot of haunting. Sometimes there'll be like some spiritual activity. I remember I had an office near the emergency room where there were no doors for a very long through two long corridors. So where my office was, looking out, there wasn't a door for a while either way. And sometimes my door handle would turn back and forth, or I'd hear a knocking on my door, and I'd open the door and there'd be nobody there. And if they ran, I would have heard them. So
Right,
it's
sure.
some ghostly activity.
Well, you know, I have a short, quick story. In
Sure.
Spain in 1924, my grandmother's sister, my grandaunt, died at 24 of hip cancer. And there's an old superstition that when you die in Spain, there's a knock 3 times on the door. Well, this poor girl died at 24, and everyone who was there swore they heard on the door. No one could have run because there were stairs. They would have heard it if somebody had run up and down. But then again, maybe they manifested it, or maybe the person leaving knew that they expected to hear it and did it, you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Or maybe their minds created the
But
sound.
they all heard it. There were a bunch of people there, like it was a big family, you know.
No, I mean made it manifest, made it come to pass, brought it
Yeah.
into being. Yeah, there are a lot of stories like that with the Greeks also. Greeks to this day believe that somebody comes and gets them and brings them to the underworld or the afterlife. And in modern times, it's often a bird. So people see a black bird and they know that the bird is here to escort the soul.
Well, now, doctors and nurses always say that as soon as a dying person is talking to their dead relatives, they know the end is near.
Hmm. My father was talking before he went for weeks. He was talking to people who had already passed on,
My mother, too. Yeah.
and he would say that they're here to take him home.
My mother would listen to her father, who had died like 40 years earlier, 30 years earlier. And she'd say, oh, she'd laugh and she'd say, you know what your grandfather just said? I'm
Huh.
14 years old. I'm like, what? What did he say? You know, and she'd repeat something funny that he said. And when my grandmother was dying, when I was like 27, one day she said to me, oh, my stepmother and I heard a man's voice in my grandmother's room. She's 94, she's dying. No way anyone could be in the house. A back and forth. He would say something, she would laugh like a 25-year-old girl on a date. She would say something, he would chuckle. And later that day, my grandmother said to me, when we were alone in her room, would you like to meet your grandfather? I almost died. I said, no, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, I wasn't ready then. I would be ready today. You know?
Yeah, I probably would have said no, I'll pass earlier on. And now again, here I am in my mid to late 60s, so it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, but now you're a bodybuilder, a lifelong bodybuilder.
Sure,
Uh,
I've lifted weights, but throughout my life, and I've enjoyed it, and it sustained me. But now I have spinal arthritis.
but you would have got that anyway, wouldn't you? It's not from bodybuilding.
No, it's not from bodybuilding. I would have gotten that anyway. But I can't do a lot of the things I did before. I still exercise sometimes 3 times a day because
Ooh,
I love exercising.
I
But
don't
uh,
exercise 3 times a month. Give me a break.
but I can't do the heavy weights anymore. I used to be able to leg press over 1,000 pounds, so I really loved it. And I started a show on my channel where it's called Wrestling Yeras. Yeras means old age in
Right?
Greek and or in ancient Greek. And there are no stories that survive, but there are vase paintings of Hercules fighting with old age.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in some of them, he's kicking the S out of old age, and in others, they seem to be talking very amicably, as if they're friends. So I've always interpreted that to mean that yeah, you could fight old age in any way you want, and a lot of people do. They start exercising, they start taking vitamins, they eat better, they do all sorts of things. But at the end, you just have to come to terms with it.
Sure.
So that's what.
And I've been taking vitamins all my life, but it didn't prevent me from aging. It just made me feel better as I aged. You know, what can I say?
But you look great for your age, so that you've accomplished that.
For 134, I look fucking fantastic. Thank you. It's not easy being a vampire, I'm telling you. No parades, no anything. We
Uh,
get nothing. It's awful.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I heard that people moved away from sleeping in coffins on top of grave dust and wearing.
No, we just use a mattress. I got a deal on a mattress. I thought, who needs a
Yeah.
coffin, you know? But anyway, but seriously, folks, I am not a vampire. You have to be careful what you say on television because people say, I knew it. That's why she's so pale. No, I'm not a vampire. I just avoid the sun. So, what do you think happens after we die?
Uh,
I've had a near-death experience. I sort of know, but what's your take on it?
I've had a near-death experience too. Um, Basically, it seems like you go to a place with other people, and it's much like here,
Yeah.
except these people have passed,
Better.
or you don't know the people. They're kind of glowy, and it's hard to tell who they are or who you're speaking with exactly. And the time I had the near-death experience and the time I've had other experiences like with astral traveling or
Hmm.
with lucid dreaming, you seem to cross over a threshold and replay parts of your life, but you could see them from a more objective perspective.
Yes.
And I discovered that fairly early on, that you could put yourself in a meditation and like experience those things. So I've always sought them out to get a better perspective on what my life has been and is all about. And sometimes it can be quite vivid. It's like almost 3D and sense you around, and you're right there, except from a different perspective. Like when you work with dreams,
Hmm.
sometimes you're in your body or a body because you're not always you in your dreams, and sometimes you're like observing, and then sometimes you're both observing and you're in a body at the same time, which is really cool.
That's like a past, that's what, when you have a past life regression. Have you had
Yes,
any?
yes, I've
Yeah.
had some. I've had some
You're the
interesting
person you
bodies.
were then, the person you are now, and the oversoul dealing with it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, or objective, permanent part of who you are all the time. That
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
change, by the way. That's freaky. It's that sense of self you've had your whole life, and it seems to be the same thing that everybody has. So everybody has that sense of I am.
Exact. And the funny thing is, the body changes with time, but you're still really the person you were as a young person. It's
Hmm.
just that your body is changing, and you know.
My aunt had done something. I might have shared this with you, but when I was 17, my aunt tapped me on the back, my father's sister.
Yeah, you told me, yeah.
Told
But
you this
keep tell
enough
it
ago.
again. Tell it again.
And she said, "How old are you?" And I thought that was a weird question because she knew how old I was. So I said, "I'm
Hmm.
17." She goes, "Okay, remember this moment. When you're 35, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder again." So I said, "Okay," and promptly like forgot about it. And then when I was 35, she tapped me on the shoulder and she says, "Remember when you were 17?" And I remembered. I said, "Yes." And she goes, "How does the time between when you were 17 and now that you're 35, how does it seem?" And that was not a question, but I thought about it. It's like it's like it was moments ago. It was like a dream. It's like I was there and now I'm here. She goes,
Hmm.
"Okay, great. Remember this. And when you're 65, I'm gonna tap you on the shoulder again."
Did she make it?
No, she didn't make it till I'm 65, but what I did in her honor was when I was 65, I asked myself a bunch of questions. And that's part of what inspired me to, again, look at my life, to enjoy the things that are here that I love and resonate with and that mean a lot to me, to spend less time doing things that don't, and to ask myself, if, okay, I'm here, what do I want to do while I'm here?
Well,
Uh,
now let me ask you a question.
sure.
Well, all right. When I was younger, I could be a real bitch. I mean, a fucking monster. I was evil. I would say the most appalling things to people, mainly because I'd been so insulted as a trans person.
Hmm.
I thought, well, fuck you.
Uh-huh.
And she said with great class and style. Anyway, so I cursed like a Marine. But anyway, I am very careful now because I know that when I die, I'm going to feel the way the people I hurt felt when I hurt them. Because I'm going to be in their shoes, in effect, as I experience a life review.
Right. But you can let that torment you, or you can learn from it and let it go. Because,
I ask the universe to forgive me. I was young, I was under a lot of stress being trans when that was not popular. And I wish I'd thought ahead and not said some of the really vicious things I used to say.
yeah, we've all said and done things that we regret. And I've grown to believe that for most people, not for all people, because some people delight in causing harm and
Mm.
distress. But for most people, they're doing the best they can with who they are and how they are and what they know at any particular point in time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there to forgive because again, the person didn't know any better at the time they did what they did. So as long as they realize it and move on and don't remain stuck there, they don't need to be tormented through like an endless loop of repetition, which a lot of people report when they're like reviewing past lives or past sins or past transgressions.
Yes, I hope you're taking account of the time because we have a skeleton crew here today at the studio and they did not turn on the clock.
I
So can you see how long we've been on?
I have a clock. I know what time it is, but I don't know how long we've been on. That I can't answer. I know we've been on for at least 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
15.
Well, you're recording this, I would imagine.
Yes, I'm recording it, but it doesn't have a counter for how much has been recorded.
Oh, okay.
That comes
Well,
after.
we'll figure it out somehow.
Okay, we're here and we're doing great.
There you go.
I
But
I made it
what?
a habit to ask myself during my evening meditation. I relive something from the past and I welcome another perspective on it or another point of view on it. And I look through the course of my day and ask myself if there's anything I could have done better uh, with my interactions with people or with my activities and so forth. So I kind of like I don't call it judging myself, but I auto reflect a lot because I know that again we do things sometimes thoughtlessly or out of pain,
Mhm.
and those things are not always the best thing to have done.
Yeah. But what's done is done,
What's
and
done is done.
but I wonder why. I guess this is the schoolroom of the soul, this world we live in, and that's why we come here. But it would be wonderful if we didn't have to come here.
I think that we are, and again, I might be wrong, this is just my opinion, but I think that we choose to be here for the same reason while when we're here, we choose to watch horror movies or crime dramas or
Hmm.
things like that. Those are horrible events that are being portrayed, and yet we gravitate toward them and we experience them vicariously.
Hmm.
And a lot of if you've done like ghost work and getting people to step into the light, a lot of times they're addicted to something here that won't let them pass on. Sometimes it's something unresolved, sometimes it's something unaccomplished,
Or
but
they're afraid.
or they're or they're addicted to some substance. And like for instance, a lot of spirits are were addicted to spirits. So they'll go to places where people imbibe or partake of spirits and they'll,
This is Coca-Cola, but yeah.
to get this, the whatever the satisfaction is vicariously.
Well, I have something you might like to know. For 10 years, my grandmother and I lived in a haunted apartment. We couldn't afford to move, so moving
Mhm.
wasn't an option. And this young man had died in his sleep. Very nice looking young guy, Italian American. Everyone who lived in that building, oh yeah, it was very sad. He died in his sleep. The ghost presented himself and all this, and I kept saying to him, "Go to the light. Why do you want to be here? This world is awful. Go to the light." Wouldn't listen. At the beginning, he was very hostile when we first moved in. But at the end, I was taking care of my grandmother. There were no home health aides in those days. It was the 70s and very early 80s, or at least I didn't know of any home health aides. It was in New Jersey. And this man, this dead man, who had died at the age of 28, wound up helping me to take care of her. Like I
Wow.
would turn and there would be a towel when I needed one, and I knew there wasn't one there a moment ago. I mean, he was very kind. Why would this young man not want to go where it's better? What had he done that he was so afraid to leave this world?
Why do people stay in situations that are clearly bad for them? Like an abusive relationship or
Yeah.
a job that devalues and uh, attacks them and belittles them. People do stay in these situations sometimes till they won't anymore or till they can't anymore.
Right, yeah, I guess.
But
But
that's why I think that again, to some extent, we choose these places. Like I like mythology. I also like sword and sorcery, which is like Conan the Barbarian and things like
right,
that. And again, that's violence and um, all sorts of people behaving badly for whatever reason, sometimes with sorcery and sometimes with swords. And I ask myself a lot, why am I attracted to this? Why do I keep going back to this? And there is something we get from it vicariously. And so I believe that our entering this earth plane is very much the same thing.
but you've also said, and I've heard you say that um, one of the things you like about Hercules is as a model, a role model of character, of being an evolved soul, as opposed to just the slice and dice and all that stuff, you know?
Right, that's very true. And Hercules in mythology is not the best person in the world. Even though he's the son of Zeus, the most high god, he makes lots of mistakes. Being human is hard. And the myths show you that. They show you not only his triumphs, but also his defeats, his bad decisions, and so forth. And I believe that it is to show you that even if you're the son of the highest God, no matter who you are or what your background is, human life is very tough, and you're going to do things that are not exactly the best thing to do. But even if you've done things that are not the best thing to do, it shouldn't prevent you from still contributing something of value to the world and doing good things as well.
I agree. Why do you think it is so tough? And okay, someone like Marilyn Monroe, she thought, if I'm rich and famous, I'll be so happy. She got to be rich and famous. She was more miserable than ever. There
And that's
is
very
no magic bullet that will make people. I've in politics. I was in politics for a long time. I've dealt with one percenters, people whose families owned 1/3 of Brooklyn.
uh-huh.
They were so miserable. It wasn't because they were rich, but they just had a miserable experience on this earth, you know? And
That's
then you meet someone who's selling churros in the street near a subway, and she's a delight. She's happy, you know? So
right.
you never know. There is no way to say, well, if I have this, I'll be happy. No, you won't.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
No, having anything that in itself will not make you happy if you're not a happy person. If you don't know how to be happy, you can have everything and still be unhappy.
Yeah. Well, one politician I knew lost a primary, and he was having hysterics. He was in his mid-30s. And I said to him, look, I mean, this happens to actors all the time. There's a part we really want. We think it has our name on it. And then somebody else gets it. Relax. I couldn't believe this. This very rich, very attractive young man having hysterics, like hysterics, over a job. I said, it's just a job, for God's sake. That's all it is. Relax. But
Plus, if you
no,
didn't have the title or the position, you could still do important things. You don't need to be a politician to.
well, I think eventually he realized that. But as he was having hysterics, I was thinking, is he kidding? Is this like a parody of hysterics? Can he really be that immature, you know? I guess, yeah. You never know, right?
No, it is. It's very sad. People get into the, if I only had this, be it a person, be it a thing, be it a circumstance.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I'd be happy. And a lot of times they'll get that, often after many adventures and at a great price, only to find that no, that didn't complete them. It didn't fill the void inside themselves. It can't.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it works the other way. I hate to go to expensive restaurants because I know the markup. I do my food shopping. I know what things cost.
Hmm.
And what they cost in expensive restaurants is so through the roof. It ruins it for me, you know? Like, oh, I'm not paying $75 for a little piece of salmon. No, thank you, no. But people do, and they think that that's success. And that's sad, you know?
Well, for them, it might be. And as long as they can afford to do it every now and then, why not? Enjoy yourself. But
I guess. Yeah, my mother used to like good restaurants. I thought it was silly, but okay. Whatever people like, right?
right.
So, what are your plans for the future?
Well, Blog Talk Radio, where I had done over 1,500 shows on my channel, and I've done like 800 or 900 shows on other channels, is closing its airwaves at the end of January. So trying to figure out how I could salvage some or hopefully all of these shows. But if it doesn't happen again, I'm in my mid to late 60s, and I know that everything's like we've discussed, dust in the wind or sand castles if you want to look at it. So nothing survives this place. So again, I'll be sad for a little while, but then I'll move on, and I'm going to be moving all of my shows for now to YouTube. And since this opportunity or this situation presented itself, I'm redefining and retuning all of the shows to be more in line with what I had envisioned or what I'm currently envisioning,
Hmm.
and to see if I can revitalize what I'm doing and then focus on the small handful of things that I consider of great importance. And one of the things I consider important is giving people their voice or providing a platform for people.
Which you do superlatively well.
Thank you.
You're
And so
welcome.
that's one of the important things. So again, I'm just focusing, how can I do this the best way I can with what I know and what I have and onwards.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what time it is. How much time do you think we have?
It's now around quarter two. I believe we have it at most maybe 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay. So, are you going to do Zoom from now on or what?
Yes, I'm looking at other options too. People are suggesting all these things and I'm looking into them. But I know how to do the Zoom and I know how to put the Zoom on YouTube. So,
Yeah,
oh,
well, you're wonderful with our shows. I do this show called The Triad on your under your umbrella, under your aegis, however you pronounce aegis, isn't it?
yes.
Something like that. And you always put it on YouTube. Thank you.
Well,
And
you guys
it's
have been
basically a radio show. We talk,
phenomenal
they don't
and
see us.
you're dealing with an important series of issues and we live in a world that needs to hear your perspective and learn from your experience.
Well, and all the other wonderful people you have, like Pam Fensler, is that her last name?
Ernstler, yes, she recently had surgery and she's recovering.
And the wonderful Astrid, she's great.
Yes, Astrid is on later tonight if Blog Talk Radio is working. Astrid, some people
Oh,
don't want
wow.
to be on Zoom, so
Right.
Astrid is one of the people who doesn't want to be on Zoom.
Well, she can do what we do on the Triad. You just hear us, you don't see
Oh,
us.
and yes,
Yeah,
I'm going to present that option to her in a little while.
sure. And I like Ryan. He's very good.
Yes, Ryan is phenomenal. Ryan is a young man. I met him through a review of one of his graphic novels on Greek mythology, and he became my favorite graphic novelist.
I've heard you say that, yeah, on your podcast. Yeah.
And then we discovered that we both had a passion for bodybuilding. And I didn't have the spinal arthritis as bad back then. So we created a show where, like gym buddies, we're not doctors or
Sure, of course, yeah.
medical degrees or anything, but it's like we both love the gym and we shared information about our diet, our exercise regimen.
Yeah, and Michael Del Rossi, you do this with a
Yes.
lot of people, yeah.
And with Michael Del Rusi now and with Michael K. Waterman,
Oh,
uh,
sure, yes. Wonderful Michael, whom I've known forever.
and
Michael Waterman.
Brian is joining us also. We're talking about guys who love to lift weights but can't anymore. So what do you do?
Brian Walker lifts weights?
No, but he exercises.
Oh,
So
well, sure, yeah.
he's joining us too. And it's like, what if you can't do the things that you did, but
And Pepe, he's great. Legally blind and he's a sports expert. I love that. Pepe, that guy, you know?
oh, John Carl Pepe?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic too. His father was into radio and it was called the Pep Talk. And so he's like you have a legacy channel because you have a Diana Montfort show that predates your show on the channel. Uh,
Right.
his father had the Pep Talk years ago. So he wanted to revive his father's show to honor his father. So that's what we did. So he has the legacy show as well. And
Yeah.
the tradition lives on in a different form.
And you gave my wonderful friend Lynn Michelli,
Yes, she's
her
fantastic
show.
too. She's
Yeah,
been
she's
quite
really
the
great.
interviewer.
I'm glad.
Yes, she's an excellent interviewer.
Yeah, she really is. She does the Edgar Casey thing the
Yes.
fourth Sunday of every month. So anyway, so I guess we're probably out of time. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you
But
for
I
to
always want to talk for
I
like 3 hours with you. I hate to say goodbye.
well, I hate to say goodbye too, but we will continue to talk
Next month, God willing, if there's still a station next month. Yes.
on and off the air. We will continue our conversation and we'll continue our adventures. And
There you go.
I'm very honored to know you and very blessed.
I'm very honored to know you. So great. So anyway, my guest has been a real genius, for real, like he's a genius.
Thank you for your kind words.
It's true. Hercules Invictus, yes, that's his real name. He's of Greek descent. He had his name legally changed, and his beautiful wife is named Athena Victorious.
Athena Victory.
Athena Victory. And I am Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. I love you, even if no one else loves you. I love you. And remember, we all chose to be here at this time. May we all live in interesting times, and damn, we sure do. Anyway, I love you a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Well, I'm going to get the person who do this computer stuff. I'll be right back.
And I will stop the recording. Take care, Diana.
You too. It was great. Thanks so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.